Your people.
Yeah, thank you. I didn't betray her. All right, so I'm Electrical Confidence from Symphony Studios, and I have my people with me. This, good evening once again, and welcome to this panel session, building a sustainable ecosystem for Nigerian corps. And we are
Okay, I'm Nufi Nko. I'm a digital artist and an animator in Symphony Studios.
I am Blessing Osom, a concept artist and an animator from Symphony Studios.
My name is Owade Ifeoluwa, known to my guys as Wade, and I'm a digital artist at Symphony Studios.
Okay, thank you. So we'll dive into how we can build a sustainable ecosystem for Nigerian comets. So we're talking about the ecosystem for Nigerian comics, and then what is an ecosystem? You know, ecosystem is a network of complex communities, bodies, or whatnot that interact together to create a value system for something. So we're talking of the Nigerian comics. What is it, the body, what comes together, the major components actually, because it's a whole lot and we can't actually exhaust it. So we'll talk about the major components of what forms the Nigerian comic.
Okay, thank you. So once again, I'm Nufi Nko. So I feel for one major component for the ecosystem of comics itself is, I think when we look back to the base, we start from the artist himself. So I think the artists are the people who actually bring to life these comic books that we read. They are the people who come up with these stories. And even in the movies we see, there are people who are underground working on this. So I feel it all begins with the artist himself, who is the key component of the creation of these comics. So now, if we look at ourselves in Nigeria, I believe we have a lot of artists. And having a lot of artists, we also have only a few who are recognized or who actually have their works out there that is being recognized. Why is that? This is because these people have been able to find a way to put themselves out there. They have found a way to put their works out there such in a way that, and I'm sure that they also have very beautiful works, very captivating works out there that have actually captured the minds of people, that will make people want to read their comics or people want to buy their comics and all that. So I feel it all starts with the artist himself, how he interacts with people, how he puts himself out there. What kind of work does he put out there? Is he being repetitive, or is he being very creative with his talent? So I feel the more creative the artist is, he has more chances of getting more people, and he has more chances of building a very good audience. So I think I'll just stop here. Maybe from later on, I'll have other things to add.
Thank you.
All right, so Blessing Osom here. Another vital component that makes up the ecosystem is, in my opinion, the audience. And I feel the audience is really, really important in the sense that if we, as the audience, are not there, like, who is the artist creating for? So, in my opinion, the audience is really, really vital in the ecosystem.
Okay.
All right. Another key component in the ecosystem of Nigerian comics is the industry itself. As much as we have the artists and the creatives, as much as we have the audience, then there's the industry. There's a way the ecosystem is meant to function. And components of this industry are what comes together to create that complex system, how and the complex system that enables the ecosystem to function. So basically, it starts with the artist, just like Nufi said earlier. The artist is not limited to just people who draw, because an artist is like a general name for someone who creates a work of art. And art is involves writing, it involves drawing, it involves any form of performance actually that is being consumed by an audience. So by saying that art involves any form of performance that is consumed by an audience, we go straight directly into the audience itself. The audience are the consumers of your product. Your art is your product, but the audience are the consumers of your product. We cannot have an artist without an audience. There has to be someone listening to you when you're talking. If that's the if that's the case, if there's nobody listening when you are talking, then that's just a monologue, not a dialogue, not a conversation. It's just a monologue. You're talking to yourself. There has to be a recipient for your message. So the artist has to be well rooted in his skill. He has to be well rooted in his knowledge. He has to make sure that all the parameters of being an artist and having heightened creativity is something, those are check boxes he has to tick for him to be able to call himself an artist. And then when we are talking about the audience itself, there's a way the audience has to relate to the artist. Okay, so these are elements that come together to form up the ecosystem. And then when we are talking about the industry now, the industry, there are things that need to be in place for the industry to function perfectly and for the industry to function the way it has to create a suitable environment for everybody. All right. So today we'll see that in the Nigerian comic sector, we are having a lot of major challenges because there are some things that should be in place that are not yet in place. And it still goes back to these elements that we've mentioned. There are challenges the artist faces. There are challenges the audience faces. And then which in turn creates challenges in the industry as a whole. Yeah. So as an artist, for example, have you fulfilled all the rudiments for being an artist? When we talk about who an artist is, who is an artist, what do we mean by an artist, and what are the rudiments that we feel an artist has to check, the check boxes he has to tick before we can actually classify this person as an artist that is capable of commanding the respect of his audience? So Nufi, what do you think about that?
Okay, so let me use myself as an example. So I've been into art for a very long time, for a very, very long time. Let me not say very, very long time, but I've been in the art this thing for a long time. I think about 6 or 7 years now, and I don't think a lot of people actually know me, but at least I know that I started benefiting from it just 2 years ago. Why? Because all this time that I have been in the art industry and all that, I've been trying to up my skills. I've been trying to build a portfolio, and I've been trying to see that I become the best of myself. Now, I've had other young artists who are coming up who have actually tried to contact me, and the first question they ask me is, how do I make money from art? How do I make money from comic books? My friend, you are just starting today and you want to start making money. What have you done to actually make yourself that strong that you want to make money from this artwork that you are doing? Now, you have to, number one, you have to work on yourself. You need to build yourself. We notice that most comics now, or most upcoming comic book writers now, especially indie comic writers, they love a lot of superhero niche type of something these days. And you see that it's getting repetitive. It's actually getting repetitive. And as it's getting repetitive like that, you see that people don't really enjoy repetitive things because you already know, okay, this guy has power. This guy is a bad guy. He will attack me. I'll come back. I'll attack him back. I'll win. Story, I'll finish. You see that another person will come up with another one. Okay, this one knows how to throw fire. He will do this, he will do that, he will do that. Story, I'll finish. You see that it's becoming repetitive. So in that case, you need to find a way to come up with stories, creative stories that will capture the minds of people. Like if we check in Nigeria, we have a lot of a lot of stories. Even from your neighborhood itself, there are a lot of things that are happening in your neighborhood that you can pick up and come up with stories with them. You have you have historical stories, like, oh, let me not say historical. You have stories about your history that you can use to come up with other stories. It doesn't have to be exactly the same as your history, but it should have that depiction of reality in it. So as an artist, you should be able to, when I'm talking about artists, please, let's not focus on only people who are drawing and coloring. Yeah. We are not focusing on only those who are drawing and coloring the comic books. We're also focusing on those who are coming up with the stories for us and those who are doing the designs and all those things. So we should be able to have that teamwork with people, with writers too. We should be able to have, if you're an artist, you should be able to have the spirit of teamwork. You should be able to know that you cannot do everything by yourself. If you are good with inks, find someone who is good with colors. You should collaborate, do a very good work. Find someone who knows how to write very good stories. Collaborate, come up with this story. I'll draw the color, someone will color for me. I'll draw the book, someone will color for me, and all that thing. You find someone who knows how to do marketing. This one knows how to put the book out there. This one is very loud. Even if it means you pay that person. It's going to put your book out there, and you see that before you know it, you become very popular, all those things. But also, we artists should learn how to listen to our audience. I think this is where Blessing.
Sorry, I have a question.
All right.
From everything that has been said, we would establish that the major component for the ecosystem for Nigerian comics is the artist. We've established the artist, we've established the audience, and we've also established the industry. So if we put the artists together, the audience, I think these are the three major components, because the artists, which consist of the writers, the colorists, all of them put together are the artists, and then the audience are the ones who consume whatever we've put out there, who consumes the product, and then the industry involves everyone at large. Now, I have a question regarding to the audience. Now, with what he said, I picked out something like I noticed that the industry they are following a particular kind of trend, like niching in one area, which is, you mentioned this superhero. I don't know, is it that the artists are not considerate of the audience? Because I might be fatigued with the product out there. Like, I'm tired already. All of them are looking alike. All of them are the same thing. So, is it that the artist or the industry, who are we focusing this thing on? Are they not considerate of the audience? Do they actually want to know what we want, or they just do their thing and expect us to consume it? I remember in the last panel, someone mentioned the audience, right? So, and they said we are doing this thing for the target audience. I don't know if I'm free to say that sometimes it's not for the target audience, because I want to see something, but then everyone is going to a particular line. Do you understand? So is it that they are not being considerate of the audience, or they just want to do their thing and force it and make it look like we, the target audience, want it?
Okay, so from the perspective of the audience now is what I'll be speaking from. We love the Nigerian superhero comics. I mean, when it really came out at first, we were wowed by it. But as time goes on, like my colleague said, it has become very, very predictable. Yeah, but we still love them regardless. But from my perspective now, as a person who has reached a certain age, I feel like, and I talked to a few people about this that agreed with me, it comes a time in your life, even with the younger generation and the older ones as well, but there comes a time in your life where you would want to know more about where you come from, or, basically the stories, the history, be it myth stories or stories that are real. You'd want to know this. And no offense to people that really like to read text, but I feel like there's a higher percentage of people that absorb information when it's more visual, and this is where the comic book comes in. So I feel like an audience, of course, we love superhero comic books that, have Nigerian heritage, but we would also want to see more than just superhero comic books. We'd want to see, like I'm from Akwa Ibom, I would like to see stories about how a particular village leader led his people to victory or something like that. It doesn't really have to be supernatural or otherworldly. Something that also have to do with our heritage, or stories that have, that really, really touches or have something to teach us from history. So just like an audience, or from an audience's perspective, I feel like we have enough superhero comics. We would like to see the comic industry or the artists give us something more and branch out.
Okay, so another question, directing to, we'll talk about the industry now. So in recent years, the Nigerian comic industry has been gaining momentum, offering vibrant, diverse narrative that resonates with readers, both locally and internationally. Now, he mentioned the artist, everyone, because of the momentum that the comic industry is gaining now, everyone is focusing. Everyone wants to like come out, everyone wants to show, even if they just started today, they want to show that, like for example, talking about how the artist, let's say today I just colored something and tomorrow I will name myself as the CEO of, I have a studio already, I'm this, I'm that. Now, how do we cope that in the industry? Because nobody wants to collaborate, nobody wants to come together, nobody wants to, as we are expanding, nobody wants to actually collaborate with another. I can do this, even if I'm not so good with this, but they want to do everything. So how do we cope that in the industry? Because I feel it's becoming a thing of concern. And if we don't handle that, if we don't cope that, I feel it's going to be an issue. So how do we address that?
All right, thank you very much. That's quite an important question that concerns everybody. How we curb that is for the industry to have the proper structure that it's supposed to have. We've established the artist, the strict routine the artist has to go through so that he can become himself and own himself, be a master of his skills. Then we've talked about the audience as well, what the audience wants to read. Then now when it comes to the industry, the industry has to take the shape that will accommodate the audience and the audience and the artists, the creatives to meet. We have young, vibrant, just like Nufi said earlier. Even I myself, where I am now, I still have people who send me DMs, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. I want to learn how to make comics. I want to learn how to draw. I want to do that. We have these young people coming out every day that have these skills, that have these talents, but they don't know how to navigate this industry. So it's our duty as people in the industry to give the industry a particular shape so that everybody will know what to do. So this person now, who is young and vibrant and wants to do this comic thing, is supposed to follow a particular path. He's supposed to navigate a particular path. Okay, first of all, he's supposed to he's supposed to hone his skills and be good at what he does. Be a very exceptional artist. And then when you are an exceptional artist and you have a very good and resourceful portfolio, you start putting yourself out there. So you need to hone your skills to a point whereby your work is exceptional. Then you can start putting yourself out there. Money not being the core goal at this point, but putting your names in people's mouths, and then eventually the money will start flowing in. So that's the answer to your question.
Okay, thank you. So one of the things I want to ask is, or I feel it's another challenge in the industry, is the fact that, okay, when you travel out of the country, you can actually walk into a store and you will see comic books, like they have comic book stores. But I have noticed over the years that it's only when we have a convention like this, or when we have a program or an event like this, that's when we get to sell our comic books. That's actually when we get to exhibit. But I've noticed that you can't just walk into a store and you see comic books. It's being seen as a child's thing. Even if you tell your parents or anybody that I want to get a comic book, they see like you're talking about children's stuff. They don't see it as an adult stuff. So is it an industry problem, or do we have to come together as an industry to, different studios, different people coming together, not just everyone doing their own thing. Let me do my own thing. I'm out there already. These people go ahead, do your own thing. Everybody's just minding their business. The only time we come together to do something or actually have something in common or actually get to see each other's product is when we have an event like this or there is comic convention, which is actually not cool. I don't have to wait for a year or for an event for people to actually consume my product. And then the funny thing is, the people who still consume this product are still the same set of people. So how do we put ourselves out there for people to actually see this thing? For someone to start loving your stuff, they have to actually start seeing it. Another thing is when I ask that question of people creating for themselves, thinking they're creating for the audience, are they trying to play it safe as well? Because you see that everybody is just niching, following one trend, and you don't want to diversify. Is it an issue of playing it safe, or everyone just want to look at what this person is doing and do the same? So yeah, that's my question. How do we come about having a shop or a bookstore, comic book store? Is it something that can happen in this part of the world? Thank you.
Yeah, to address the second question first. To address the second question first, you said something about how we put out the content for people to consume. What we can do as an industry here is put our content, our animation, whatever, put it out there. Let people see. We are not talking about putting it out there in the conventional ways. The conventional way we've been doing this thing is just like you said earlier, we don't have to wait until conventions, until we have programs like this before we now start selling our books. Because you see, the major market for some of these things comes when we have sessions like this, when we have conventions and Comic Connect or whatever. That's when we now start seeing comics out there. On a regular day, let's just say I'm craving comics. Let me put it that way. I'm craving comics. I want to consume a comic. I want to read a comic. Where do I go to get a comic? I don't know. We don't have bookstores that sell comic books. We don't have bookstores that sell comic books. And I think it's something we should have. We should have comic bookstores. We should have comic stands. People are saying Nigerians are not interested in reading comic books. I don't think that's true. The reason why I believe that is not true is because the reason people are not reading comic books is because it's not in their face. I use that Super Strikers as an example. It was in everybody's face. So even if you're not interested, you'll be like, what is this? It's the same principle that is applied in marketing. When you open your phone, you're always seeing different ads. Maybe they advertise a car to you today, a washing machine tomorrow, a phone to you the next day after. And then the more you keep seeing these ads, the more you are convinced that I want to get something. You quickly go on Jumia, you go on AliExpress, you go on Amazon, whichever one. And then you start buying something. Why? Because it's in your face, it's repetitive. So that's the power of repetition. When something comes constantly, you start appreciating the value of that thing. So in the same way, when we start putting comics out there, whereby it's not limited to conventions, maybe we start having comic book stores. Okay, we always have book stores everywhere. We have bookstores everywhere that sell motivational books, inspirational books, gospel books, whatever. We have bookstores at airports. We have them at motor parks and stuff like that. Why don't and these bookstores have sections? They have different sections. Why don't those bookstores have sections that are comics as well? I believe when everybody starts seeing this thing, people will start picking interest in them. And the way you make your product out there will not just be limited to conventions. So that's my answer to your question.
Okay, so to add to what he has said, so I feel in order to put our comics out there, I don't know, I'm sure that many of us know Indomitables. I'm sure that many of us. So when I was in primary school, what Indomie did that time was to come to our schools. They will set up little games, you play, and you win a comic book. So I feel one of the ways we can also put our comic books or our stories out there is if we can follow up with schools. I'm sure that definitely you will be able to find schools that will agree to have some of those books in their libraries. Now, in order for you to even have certain types of books in a library, you need to know the content of that book too. If it's something that the children can learn from, if it's a comic book that the children can learn from or can easily get entertained from just reading it, then I'm sure that it is very easy and it's also affordable. I'm sure that it will be easy for you to convince libraries of schools to also have those kind of books in their own libraries. So that's one other way to also get our books out there.
Okay, so Blessing, please, can you quickly just touch on that, playing it safe with the audience, the artists to the audience, just briefly, like them writing or creating their product and tagging it, creating for a target audience, but then it feels like they are playing it safe. I feel they are playing it safe with the people instead.
Okay, so I'll start by saying that most of us from here, Nigeria and Africa, are more familiar with the international mythologies. Like, if you call on almost anyone here, they can tell you the story of Hercules from beginning to the end. But none of us really know a story of a typical Nigerian god. So I feel like also, even in talking about stories about the Nigerian gods, we are also trying to play it safe. Like, the comic industry is kind of playing it safe. I will not call names, but we know and we heard of comic books that really portray a particular kind of god. Nigeria, when it comes to Nigerian history and Nigerian mythology, we have various different myths about different gods from different aspects of Nigeria, from the north, from the south, from the west, and from the east. We have lots of gods that have been left unexplored. So I feel like, as the audience, we would like to hear these stories. And other than it being supernatural, like I mentioned earlier, there's this story that I was fascinated by. I came across it on TikTok. The story was about, I think it's King Okobo or something like that. Yeah, I was really intrigued by the story. It didn't have anything to do with the supernatural, but yeah, King Jaja of Okobo. It didn't have anything to do with supernatural, but then the man's approach to life and approach to the colonialist masters back then was really intriguing. And I feel like it's something like this that us, the audience, would like to see visually represented in comics. So I feel we would also accept that as well.
So I want to add something that, apart from history, creatives rather, should also not just focus on history, the supernatural gods and all those stuff, but we can create comics on other aspects of life, even aside romance, but talking about other things, other stories, mental health, or what's not. We should actually create stories around everything. Everything. I mean, if you read the international manga stories, they're not just centered on one thing. They're not just niched to one thing, but they diversified into. You can get anything you want, and I think it's something that we should adopt as Nigerians. And also, one of the things I would love to add in regards to what you said, instead of, as a solo artist, doing everything or because every other person is doing it, we talked about having a bookstore, a book stand. Instead of just focusing on having a brand to yourself, I feel as a solo creative, you can also take it upon yourself to own a store, have a book stand where every other person, if the industry cannot come together to make this possible, we can as well do it individually, where you can make this possible, where someone can actually want to purchase. You can go around, get this thing, because we have Christian magazines, Christian books. You go in, they'll tell you, go to this bookstore and get it. Go to this bookstore and get it. It can be done with comic books. If you, as an individual, decide to have a book stand or a bookshop, and other studios send their book to you to sell, and anyone that wants to get that book can actually go there. I think it's a beautiful thing. And from there, people will expand, and we see that this thing also can be possible. But then it takes one person It takes an individual, it takes people, it takes the industry doing this for people to know it is possible in this part of the world. But because we are so centered on ourselves and doing our thing, that's why it is not yet possible. And it looks like comic is not something that everybody would want to consume. Yeah, thank you. So your answer.
I wanted to say something about what you mentioned earlier when it comes to our storytelling. You know, when you look at manga and anime, there is something they do. They know how to catch your interest. A particular manga or an anime can be about something you don't have any interest in, and they catch your interest. Me now, I like this anime, Kuroko no Basket, where those guys play basketball. As tall as I am, I've never set foot on a basketball court before. But when I started watching Kuroko no Basket, I love basket. I started liking basketball so much that I've even started thinking of picking up basketball just from watching an anime. You understand? So something you are not interested in. I think there are some anime regarding cooking, like maybe Food Wars or something. Like manga goes all across. They can pick medicine. They can just pick a random subject matter like medicine, like cooking, like basketball, sports, being a teacher or whatever, and they create stories around that thing, and they know how to engage you. If it's suspense, if it's mystery, it's everything is there. They know how to engage you with just that thing. So we need to take our storytelling back into the shop. What we are seeing is we have a lot of repetitive stuff, okay, and I think people play it safe in this part of the world. Once one person has told a story in this particular direction, everybody wants to go in that direction because they are afraid of exploring other aspects. For example, now in the comics, I've seen one comic book of Shango, and after I saw Shango, I can't count how many other Shangos I've seen. I've seen Shango here, Shango there, Shango everywhere. You understand? He's not the only demigod we have. We have other demigods. We have historical figures. There are different things we can talk about, and took away over 2,500 art pieces that they are displaying now in the British Museum. All our artworks in Benin, they took it and they are displaying it in the British Museum. They didn't pay for it. They didn't trade for it or anything. They just took it and killed people. They exiled the king at that period. They exiled him. They killed people. They raped women. They did stuff like that. These are things that can be talked about in comic books. It's part of history. It's part of history. There are a lot of things. We have myths. Bayajida, we have myths that are particular to different cultures and different tribes that can be explored in comics. But what we see nowadays is some of these stories are not being maxed out. They are not being thought of. And that is a direction we need to go in. We need to really think about stories. Nigeria has a wealth of stories. If we didn't have a wealth of stories, international creatives or international creators or publishers or whatnot, they will not be coming to Africa to source for stories. You know, we have a shift nowadays that these people are coming towards Africa. They are coming towards Nigeria to source for stories. That's why we see more and more African content showing in their content as well. Because when you watch some series nowadays, you see Nigerian characters in those series, and you see those Nigerian characters speaking Yoruba, speaking Igbo. You can see series like American Gods. One of the gods was a Ghanaian god. You can see different anime. This anime, Fire Force, there's a Yoruba guy there. Even in Bleach, there's Tosin. Tosin is a Yoruba name. You understand? Why should they be using our own content and doing better than us? That means we need to think ourselves. We need to think, and we need to do better. We really need to do better with our storytelling. And as someone, I think it was Sagai that was mentioning earlier, we have a wealth of books. Another aspect to go is we have books. These books are being written. We have a lot of books here. You can pick up a book, look at that story. Oh, this is a good story that we can use to create a comic. You understand? Some of those series you are watching and you are loving so much, maybe Addams Family, Wednesday, what have you? They are all from books. The Marvel Cinematic Universe now is from comic books. Okay, some of those shows you see on Netflix, like just some of these shows you see on Netflix. Most of them are from books like this. Some of them are from comic books. Some of them are from novels and stuff like that. So I think we just need to do a better job with our storytelling, and that's one core aspect of the industry we need to look into.
All right, thank you so much. And this brings us to the end of this panel session. And we.
Until the night is over, I wanna hold you so tight, coming closer.
Okay, sorry, does anyone have any question? Is there a question, please? Any contribution as well? All right, thank you so much.